Ndewo, Keduki Mere, Adima. Again, I've said unto you, hello, how are you doing? I'm doing fine. So hopefully you have the same testimony today that God is blessing you and things are going well for you. As I typically do, I'm just taking a few moments out to continue to practice the Igbo language of Nigeria, my ancestral tongue, to make sure that my mind and my mouth are cooperating together. For many of those that have been following me on this series, you know that your mouth doesn't always want to cooperate with what your mind is saying, so it's always best to vocalize these things. Probably the funny thing that I can tell you is that when I first started learning Igbo about a year and 3 or 4 months ago, I told my wife immediately that you're going to start hearing voices coming from my office here in my home because I'm going to be talking out loud. I'm not talking to myself, so I wanted her to know that I'm not going crazy by any form of fashion, but in order to learn a second language, you certainly have to vocalize it in order to train yourself, in order to get it right. So again, thanks for joining me. There have been quite a few people that have been following me over this year or so and learning various aspects of the Igbo language, and appreciate your support and learning along with me. Perhaps we'll be able to have an opportunity to have a face-to-face conversation in Igbo, and all of us will be fluent at the same time. But in order to not take up too much of your time, again, we're going to do the one of 2 final videos on this topic called En-Ka Na Ntorondo, meaning arts and entertainment. As you know, the word En-Ka means arts, Na means and Ntorondo means entertainment. So again, we're going to be studying En-Ka Na Ntorondo, arts and entertainment. Of course, again, that's me as I came back from Nigeria, my second trip in 2019. Always a pleasant trip to go over there and do missionary works and to have fun with my brothers and sisters in Christ over there and just have a good time together. So hopefully I'll be able to do that again as the COVID crisis relents a little bit. Maybe I'll be able to go back over there again next summer, 2021. All right, let's get to the 10 words. As I scroll through the presentation, bear with me and we'll get started. All right, so again, our topic is arts and entertainment. So we're going to talk about anything related to arts and entertainment. Again, just 10 words. For stand-up comedy, you would say, Amu-Mea Amu-Mea is stand-up comedy. Now, this is probably one of the more difficult ones and more complex ways of saying something in Igbo. Basically because you have to make up a concept. And so you're coming from 3 words. The first word is emume, which means acting. And ihe, the second word, means something. So you're saying you're acting out something. Then you have to describe what you're acting out in Hau-Chea. Hau-Chea means comedy. So really what you literally have said in English that you're saying acting something comedy. Acting something that is comedic, in other words. But again, what makes the complication of this one is that this is just like English. You have to use contractions to say it the way the average person would say it. You wouldn't say emume ihe Hau-Chea. They probably know what you were saying, but that's speaking extremely proper, as we would say in American English. So the average person would say it this way: emume Hau-Chea. Because what you're doing, you're dropping the first E in emume, and you're dropping the third E, which is in ihe. And so you're running them all together, and you end up with that almost sounding like one word that I'm giving to you right now. So we'll do it real slow. And again, remember the pronunciations is different in Igbo of the letters that you see on your screen as opposed to English. Like, for instance, the E's make an A sound. The I with the dot underneath of it is called a diacritic. It makes a real sharp I or E sound. It's like saying ink, ink. And the O with the dot underneath makes a aw sound, like auto. Okay, so it changes the pronunciation of those letters. Okay, almost like when we have accents in English over the letters. All right, so let's do it one more time. And again, you can participate along with me. The only way to really learn this thing is to say it aloud. So we would say for stand-up comedy, A-Mue-Mea stand-up comedy. All right, one last time. A-Mue-Mea stand-up comedy. All right, television. Now there's two ways of saying television. One of them sounds just like English, télévision. Télévision is one way you can say television, but probably the more native way of saying it would be Igbe Own-Yone-Yoe. Igbe Own-Yone-Yoe would probably be more the native way of saying it. So basically, when you say eBay, that's that IGBE word, because the GB probably for us English as our first language, you just convert that to making it a B sound, but actually GB is one letter in Igbo. So most Igbos know that if English is your first language, you're not going to be able to pronounce the GB correctly, and they normally allow you to just say B for it. So that's why you hear me saying eBay. And then you have onyonyo, which means images. So to the Igbo mind, when television was first introduced, they basically were calling it in English literally a box of images. Okay, a box of images. So that's literally what you're saying. When you say Igbe Own-Yone-Yoe, you're saying box of images, which in English means television. Okay, so one more time, Igbe Own-Yone-Yoe, television. Or if you want to use the more Americanized or English sounding way, you can say television. Okay. All right, so we'll move on. TV show is, remember, you have to, in Igbo, say things the opposite way you say them in English. Again, you get the subject and then you talk about the description. Again, I like to use the example all the time. Like, for instance, in English, we'll say blue car. But in languages like Igbo, Spanish, and most languages of the world, you would say car blue. Okay, and that's the same thing that you do in Igbo. So to say TV show, you actually have to say show of television. Okay, so that becomes En-Goe-See E-Bay Own-Yone-Yoe for TV show. And I'll go through that slowly. The only special characters and pronunciations for us English as first language speakers is the I. It makes an E sound. Okay. All right. So what you have first is En-Goe-See. En-Goe-See means show. And as you have already heard, E-Bay Own-Yone-Yoe means television. So you're saying show of television or television show. So let's put it all together. It would be En-Goe-See E-Bay Own-Yone-Yoe, television show or TV show. Again, En-Goe-See E-Bay Own-Yone-Yoe, TV show. All right, theater. Theater is another one of those that you have to put two words together and make a contraction out of it. So you're going to drop the first E that you see using the pronunciation in English of the letters. I'm just calling them English letters, but really even in Igbo, the letters have a different name in the Igbo alphabet. But we're just going to keep it simple and just use the English pronunciation of the letters to keep confusion down. So again, you have special characters. A U with the dot underneath, the diacritic, makes an O sound, and the O with the dot underneath makes an A sound. So the first word you're saying is Oh-Lau, Oh-Lau, okay? And the second word is A Gee-Jay, A Gee-Jay. All right, so Oh-Lau, the first word, means house. A Gee-Jay means play. So you basically, in order to communicate this in the Igbo mindset, you have to say house of plays, the house where plays are performed, which we in English call theater. And again, to pronounce it correctly, you get rid of that first E, you drop it. So what you end up saying is Oh-Lau Gee-Jay for theater. Oh-Lau Gee-Jay is theater. They probably would still understand it if you said Oh-Lau Gee-Jay, but the common everyday person is going to say Oh-Lau Gee-Jay for theater. Again, we'll say it slow. Oh-Lau Gee-Jay is theater. All right, understudy. I actually had to use a dictionary to find out what understudy actually meant in English. It means someone that is studying a role in case the person that actually has the role gets sick or cannot perform that night. So an understudy is kind of like a replacement for an actor, for instance, that may have gotten sick and couldn't do the play that night. So to say understudy, In Igbo, it would be Ea-Goe Mah-Kah. Again, Ea-Goe Mah-Kah, made of two words. Ego means to read, and when you have that I with the dot underneath, that means you're saying a verb. So ego is actually a verb. So it's ego, meaning reading, and maka means about. So when you read about something, that means you're studying it in the Igbo mindset. So again, it's Ea-Goe Mah-Kah, understudy. Again, Ea-Goe Mah-Kah, understudy. All right. We've already had this word here. It's just a different word in English. But for a singer, you would use the same word I'm going to give you. And for a vocalist, same thing, is the same word. So you have three words to make up a singer or vocalist, means the same type of person. It would be Aun-Yea Nah-Goe Ah-Gwue. Okay, so those are the three words that you have. In this case, it's easier because you don't have to do any, well, you do have one contraction. When you see the word na, N-A, and you see the dash behind it, you eliminate the A. So instead of saying na-agụ, you hear me saying na-agụ, na-agụ, because I'm eliminated one of the A's. Okay? All right, let's back up and don't get confused here. But when you're talking about a person, you normally start off with the word Aun-Yea, Aun-Yea. So remember that O with the dot underneath makes that all sound like auto. So Aun-Yea means a person. Then you describe what type of person you're talking about. Na-agụ means one that is singing, and egwu means either music or a song, depending on what you're talking about. So to say somebody is a vocalist, you basically are saying the person that's singing a song, or you're saying the person that's singing music, which is all the same thing. All right, so in order to get it right and just say it, the way it completely is, we'll go ahead and give it one or two more tries. And again, you can go ahead and say it along with me. So it's Aun-Yea Nah-Goe Ah-Gwue, vocalist. And then again slow. Aun-Yea Nah-Goe Ah-Gwue, vocalist. All right, just a few more and the lesson is yours. Now we're going to talk about a violinist, one that plays the violin. Again, as you can see, you start off with the word Aun-Yea, which means a person. And then you come with the next word, which is a different verb than what you talked about last time. So it's Na-Pau, Na-Pau, which means to play something. And violin is actually pronounced as Vau-Lean, Vau-Lean. So to put it all together, then we'll break it down slowly so we understand it. So hopefully that helps you. When I break the words down piece by piece, it makes me remember them and understand what I'm actually talking about. So you would say, Aun-Yea Nah-Pau Vau-Lean. Aun-Yea Nah-Pau Vau-Lean, violinist. Again, Aun-Yea. Then you would drop the A in the next word, which is na. So that becomes Na-Pau. And then you drop the I in violin. So it becomes Vau-Lean, Vau-Lean. So again, it's Aun-Yea Nah-Pau Vau-Lean. Again, one more time, we'll move on to the next word. Aun-Yea Nah-Pau Vau-Lean, violinist. All right. We're starting to talk about verbs specifically because obviously performance is an action activity. So you're going to use a lot of verbs. So to act, to play a part in a play, a character, to act out the role, the word for to act means ịmee. Ịmee is to act. And again, your special characters pronunciations is the I with the dot underneath, which gives it that high E or I sound like ink, ink. So that's why you're saying ịmee. And when you have two vowels together, like the two E's here, remember the two E's make an A sound. It just means to drag it out when you pronounce it. So what you're saying is ịmee, ịmee, to act. Instead of just ịmee, you're saying ịmee, to act. So remember, Igbo is complex, and that is one of the tone languages of the world. So the way you say things is important as how you say it. Okay, so it all makes a difference so that you're communicating the right thing. So it's ịmee, to act. Again, ịmee, to act. All right, to applaud or clap. In other words, when you want to show approval for the performance, you basically just use two words. And you don't have to do a contraction this time, so you pronounce it just the way you see it. So to applaud, meaning to clap, is ịkụ-aka, ịkụ-aka, to applaud. Again, ịkụ-aka, to applaud. Again, what you just said is ịkụ, the first word, to strike, and aka means hands. So to strike the hands means to clap, meaning to applaud. So again, one more time, and we'll move on to the last word after that. It's ịkụ-aka, to applaud. All right, last one. Again, we're talking about arts and entertainment. So we're talking about the one that conducts the orchestra or the symphony, the music. Of course, especially one of my things that I love a lot when it comes to plays and live theater is the live music that they play behind the stage or underneath the stage, however they have it structured. But again, you see the I with the dot underneath, the diacritic. So that means you're using that sharp E sound, like ink, ink, ink. And it also means that you're saying a verb. So this one's pretty easy. The I's without the dot underneath makes an E sound, okay? So the I with the dot underneath makes a high E sound. The regular I without the dot makes a normal E sounding sound. So what you're saying is ikuziri, to conduct. Ikuziri, to conduct. All right, one more time. Ikuziri means to conduct. In other words, to make the music come out decent and in order. So again, that's our 10 words for today. Thank you for joining. I'll post as many as I can as time allows me to do. And plus, it also forces me to share and use what I've learned over time, over this year and 3 or 4 months. I've been blessed to learn my ancestral tongue, the Igbo language of Nigeria. So what I'm going to say to you now is thank you and good night. Ea-Mea Kachifo. Have a good night. Bye-bye.